County, and this is Miss Vickie Argueta, and she is currently working for the city of Chicago as a clerkship. And this is Sullivan, and he is a partner at his own firm. He's actually delivering ABA and young lawyer solutions. So, and you guys go right ahead.
Thank you. You mind if I go first? Yes. All right, perfect. So as Lorena said, my name is Clive Guilamo. I currently work as an assistant state's attorney with the County State's Attorney's Office. Essentially, we are the prosecuting body for Cook County. With the crimes that are committed in our county, we are the ones who handle those crimes. Our office also has other divisions which deal with other niche areas of laws. That includes juvenile, that includes child protection, that includes child support, and a whole bunch of other areas of law. I personally am originally from Bronx, New York. I came out here to Illinois to study at Northwestern University. I then went on to law school at Chicago Penn College of Law. After that, I started with the office, and I've been there ever since. I'm definitely going to hand it over to these other guys so they can go ahead and tell you a little bit more about their backgrounds.
Hi, my name is Vickie Argueta, and I am an assistant corporation counsel with the city of Chicago. I work with the torts division. For those of you that may be wondering what the torts division does besides, because I know in law school we learn about torts and it's usually battery or assault, that kind of a thing, but with the city of Chicago, the kind of cases that we're dealing with are your trip and falls on the sidewalk. If you're walking on the sidewalk and you usually see a crack or a height differential, believe it or not, there's people that will trip over them instead of walking over them or walking around them. So they will sue the city, and I have to defend those kind of cases. Your sinkhole cases, for example, if a car is driving by and all the ground opens up and the car goes in, that's a sinkhole case. We handle those cases. Your pothole cases, either people stepping on potholes or driving over potholes. Also, motor vehicle accidents involving all kinds of city employees, be it the police department, your streets of sanitation, truck drivers, your paramedics, firefighters. So it's a variety of cases that we're dealing with in the torts division, and also some wrongful death cases. And the city of Chicago Department of Law is broken up into various divisions. So aside from torts, there's also the appeals division, there's the section that deals with employment law, labor law, so it's also a myriad of different things. In terms of my background, I was born and raised in Chicago in the Humboldt Park area. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Humboldt Park area. And let's see, I went to undergrad at the University of Illinois. After undergrad, I commissioned as a second lieutenant, and I went active duty Army. And I went into the service right after undergrad. While I was in the Army, I decided that I wanted to go to law school. So I put in my paperwork to get released from active duty. And thank God I got accepted into law school. And it was one of those things where my chain of command supported me and said, you got accepted into law school. We'll support you leaving active duty so you can go to school and become an attorney. So that was wonderful that I had their support. And I went to law school at the University of Illinois, so I went back there. So I'm a double Illini. And I transitioned from there into the Army Reserve. So currently, aside from still having my civilian career as a city of Chicago attorney, I also had a military career where I work as an equal opportunity advisor for a one-star general, where part of that involves assessing the command climate and making sure that we're promoting a healthy work environment and keeping an eye out for anything that may pertain to different kinds of discrimination, be it gender, race, color, national origin, sexual preference. And if some of those things occur, then it's on my office of equal opportunity to bring it to my general's attention or my chain of command's attention so that we can then address it and also be a change agent to try to cultivate a healthier environment, which is something that I'm very excited about. And I feel that it complements my civilian career as an attorney because I'm not an attorney for the military. And then just to keep myself as a well-rounded person, I am actively involved in various volunteer works. I help children how to read. I work with high school kids that may be interested in the legal profession. I'm very involved with my church youth group, and I run marathons on behalf of charities to help a worthy cause. This past April I ran my first Boston Marathon, so that was exciting, and at the same time I used that opportunity to raise money for a shelter in Englewood, a homeless women's shelter, to help them and their children. And so I keep myself very busy, but at the same time, it's things that matter. I believe that, yes, it's good to, be involved in your work, but also take a step back and go outside of yourself to also see the needs that are out there in our community and to be actively involved and to be that change agent. So now I'll pass it on to Mario, and then we can answer questions later.
Well, I was going to go first. My name is Mario Sullivan. I'm born and raised in Chicago. Grew up in the south side of Chicago, any south siders. Grew up for a little while around places in California, and then mostly around Midway Airport after that. I know I don't look as Latino. I am half Mexican. My father's Latino, so you may get me on the salsa merengue dance floor, you'll see my
Prove it.
We'll see how the music goes a little later on. I've been practicing for 10 years. I do commercial litigation, and a small firm, just me and another attorney. I've been named partner there. It was his firm for quite a few years, and made me partner about 2 years ago, going almost on 3 years. So it's been very exciting for me. Commercial litigation is pretty broad. We do a lot of real estate, around tenant collections, employment, some discrimination, a bit of foreclosure, and I do both on the defense and plaintiff side. Representing landlords, representing tenants, foreclosing, representing things, but also representing individuals when they're suing their developers for defects in the houses they built, and also condo associations who are suing developers and things like that. I was near one of the broad practice, especially when I was turned down from the state's attorney office for a position there. This was a really good fit for me and kept me very interested in the things that I do. Now, I do a lot of volunteer things as well, but not as notable as my other panelists here. But I do a lot with the American Bar Association, the Young Lawyers Division. I'm the immediate past chair right now of the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. It's 130,000 members throughout the nation. I chaired that last year. It was very exciting. I got to do a lot of things. And we had a lot of support from my office, which is always great and something you need to have when you're looking at these volunteer things there. I've done stuff with the Chicago Bar Association in the past as well. But a lot of my volunteer work is focused on the national level. And I did that mainly because I felt that on a national level, the little bit of time that I do have outside of work, I'd be able to make a bigger impact not only on the profession and those who are interested in becoming lawyers, as well as those who are moving through, especially in these difficult economies that you hear about the law profession and new students and young lawyers trying to find jobs, that I can make a change in their lives, but I can also make a change in the community. When you're talking about civil rights, when you're talking about discrimination, all these policies, there are lawyers there, national organizations. We are lobbying in D.C. To Congress and get laws passed, and that was definitely a way that I could do it, and I felt that I could do it on a grand scale in my profession while still having time to work a full-time job. Last year, I think I worked maybe 2 weeks a month for quite some time, which in a small firm is very difficult to do. What I bill is the money that I put in my pocket and I go home. So if I'm not billing, then that makes me much to take home. But I was able to do it, and it was a great opportunity for me. And I think one of the main things I chose as a profession before I even thought about before I was going to high school. that. So they kind of watched. Well, actually, let me ask the question: how many here think being a lawyer is like law and order? Raise your hand. Nobody? Seriously?
Right.
Nobody's going to courts like going to see Judge Judy. It's nothing like that. It is very exciting at times, but it can also be extremely boring at times. But I knew this was a profession where you can make change. You don't only just have to do big white-collar crime, defend them, or working for big corporations. You can broaden your horizons. You can go work for those big firms, make nice money. You can work for small firms. You can work for the city or the state, and make change in the world through those various different avenues. You can go and work in-house counsel somewhere. But the law degree gives you an opportunity to opens up a lot of doors for you to not only make a nice living, but make a contribution to society, to your community, as well as to your profession.
Any questions?
I have a question. So when I started law school, I know I went through litigation, but that's really all I knew. So I guess my question to the panel is, when you started law school, did you know what kind of law you wanted to practice? And how did you sort of decide that later on if you didn't know right away?
All right, I guess I'll go first. When I was in middle school, there was a group of attorneys that came into our middle school and did a mock trial competition for the students in my school. And it was something that I found interesting, I did well in, and I knew that this was something that I potentially wanted to do. As I went throughout my life to college, speaking with other individuals from other professions, I always kind of knew that being an attorney was something that I really enjoyed while I was in middle school doing this mock trial competition, and it was something that I always kind of saw myself doing in the future. When I went to college, I was a math major, so it had nothing to do with anything that usually goes into law school. I was looking at a bunch of like quadratic equations and different theorems, and ultimately, I knew that when you want to go into the legal career, it doesn't matter what your background is, because there are contracts that might be math oriented, there's patent law which might be engineering oriented, and having a diverse background doesn't necessarily disqualify you from becoming an attorney. Specifically because of my experience, I knew I wanted to go into trial work because of that experience I had at a very young age. So for me, the choice was pretty direct. I didn't have a lot of experience. It was, I think 3 weeks to a month program that I had in middle school that I absolutely loved and stuck with me. But I knew I wanted to get into law school. Once I was in law school, I did not have any legal experience. So I spent my entire time in law school getting that experience. And that's something I would recommend to anyone who is either going through law school or considering going into law school. Those 3 years are definitely the time that you want to take to get that legal experience. You want to be clerking if you can during the school year. You want to be clerking during the summer, because that's the opportunity for you to get the experience so that when your 3rd year comes, you have something to put on your resume of value. Being able to argue that, yes, I am a great candidate for this position because I've done this in the time that I was in law school. For me, I did a clerkship at the Chicago Transit Authority, CTA, and that experience was amazing. I also clerked at the state's attorney's office. I also did an in-house clinic through my school doing the health law program there. So that 3-year period was definitely the time that I chose to really get the experience, so that once my 3rd year came around, I had some experience to offer different potential employers.
For me, I really had no clue what kind of practice I wanted to go into. Even before I went to law school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the legal career other than I wanted to go to law school, and a lot of that, I credit my mother for that. Being first generation born in the U.S. with my brothers, with my parents coming over from Guatemala, it was just one of those things where my mother just pushed higher education. And she would always tell me that she either wanted me to be a psychiatrist or an attorney. So for her, that was pretty much it. She's like, I want you to go to she just had higher dreams for my brothers and for me. And, you know, it was just one of those things that she would just constantly, you know, I guess, speak into my life. And so when I was in the military, I always had this thing of, no, I have to go to law school, I have to go to law school. And then I'm in law school, and then it's, okay, what am I going to do now? So really, I didn't know what I was going to do. But the summer before my 3L, I was blessed to have an internship with Judge Diane Larson, who at the time was a law division judge at the Daily Center, and now she left law and she's been, I think, in Chancery for a while. But so I worked with her the entire summer, and she told me one day, you know, I would really like for you to work with the city of Chicago. She said to me, I think it would offer you a lot of opportunities. It would open the door for you. You would learn a lot. You would grow. And I thought, okay, you know, that's nice, you know. And I just worked with her the entire summer, and it was a great experience. A wonderful woman. And I learned a lot from her. And then I went back to school my 3L year, and I kept thinking to myself, what am I going to do once I graduate? You know, where am I going to work? What am I going to do? And I remember I went into the career counselor, and I was like, I need help finding a job because I don't know what I'm going to do. And so she reviewed my resume, and I told her about my experience with Judge Larson. And she literally looked at me and she said, you know, if you were not in the military, I would shake you right now. She said, if you have a judge telling you to, you know, apply with the city of Chicago, why aren't you doing it? And I thought, okay. So I got everything ready. I got my resume, my writing sample, everything ready, and I sent it into the city. And thank God, I'm glad I did, because within, I think, like a couple of months, they called me for an interview, and then a month after that, they called me in for my second interview. And then I had already taken the bar, and I was waiting for the results. And I had already planned to spend the month of September in Spain to go visit family. And before I left for Spain, they called me and said, okay, come and fill your paperwork, do your fingerprinting. And then when I came from Spain, I started my job with the city of Chicago. So I always tell people it's by the grace of God that, you know, I got that job right away. Because if you were to talk to anyone else with the city, it takes actually a long, long time to get hired at the city of Chicago just because of the way the system works. And so that's how I ended up with the city of Chicago in the torts division. But if you would have asked me when I was in law school what I was going to do, I wouldn't have been able to tell you.
You know, you can tell your mother being a lawyer is almost like being a psychologist. That's free. You know, it's still out. You know, those counseling clients. But yes, you accomplish both those things. I always thought I was going to be a prosecutor with the state attorney's office. I did criminal justice science as an undergrad major, with a minor in sociology. And then going to law school, I wasn't so sure if I would do criminal. Still had an interest in doing criminal law and going to the state attorney's office. Then I started preparing documents for pay, and I could still do that. But in the end, I didn't get the third interview. And actually, I'm kind of happy I didn't get the third interview. Not because of the pay and like that, but I'm actually very happy with what I'm doing now. There were times I thought I would do international criminal justice law. You know, you're trying to go work for the Hague and go out there. Long, big aspirations with no foreign language background, so that wasn't really going to work out well at it for me. And I literally was getting to the end, finished law school, had no job, lined up, no idea what I was going to do, took the bar, finished taking the bar, still no job, went to Spain for a week. So I was going to go to Spain, I guess we all go to Spain.
We didn't meet up over here.
I'm actually the oldest one on this panel, so I ended up working for some solo practitioners I knew because I had no money, no student loans coming in. Needed some temporary work while I was still applying for jobs. What I call the limbo year, or the limbo months between taking the bar and finding out whether you passed the bar. Many firms don't even bother interviewing you until they find out whether you passed. It's really, you're not a lawyer until you pass the bar. So what's the point of interviewing you if you're not passing the bar? Worked for with them a few years, or not a few years, worked with them for a couple months, and one attorney I'm with and partner with is like, yeah, why don't you come on, maybe I have some work, did some work, and I said, well, if you pass the bar, you can stay there. And that's kind of where I ended up where I am. There's many opportunities, I think, when you look in the profession, where you can end up, and many different roads to go there. Many mentors who will push you in directions that eventually will lead you to your happy career. But you just never know. I think there's a lot of people who think, oh, I'm going to law school to do this. I thought I was going to go be a criminal prosecutor. And here I am 10 years later, and I'm nowhere near the criminal courthouse or practicing criminal law.
Oh, go ahead, no, you go.
So what's one piece of advice you would give to people who are deciding whether law school is something that they should do or not?
Sure. Generally, I think I might be unique in this aspect. I would not recommend law school for individuals who are undecided. I think that now where the legal career is, it is a competitive field. It is a saturated field when it comes to how many attorneys are in the profession. Oftentimes what I recommend to people is, ultimately know what you want to do and know that you need a JD in order to do it. I wouldn't recommend going to law school not knowing what to do, and here are some key reasons why. During your time in law school, there are certain things you can take advantage of if you know that that is what you want to do. For example, if you want to go into trial work, you can be on the mock trial competition team. You can take multiple trial advocacy classes. You can take advanced evidence classes. You can take litigation technology. All of these things are going to make you the most effective trial attorney that you can be. If you go into law school not knowing that you want to do trial work or transaction work, and you take a fair mix of the two, and then later on in your career in law school, you find out that what you really like is trial work, you may have burned the time that you had available to you to be able to take advantage of what your school has to offer when it comes to trial work. The same goes for other avenues. If you really wanted to go into patent law, maybe even being in a completely different state might be more suited towards your interest in patent law than being in Illinois, for example. So there are many individuals who ultimately come to law school and they want to find out what they want to do, but what many individuals are finding out nowadays is that there's a hefty price tag to law school. And that hefty price tag does come due shortly after you graduate from law school. And when that price tag does come due and you need to start paying off those student loans, it is a sobering reality for many individuals in the legal profession, where they ultimately jump towards the first career they find, maybe not satisfied with what they're doing, but it's what they're doing in the meantime to pay off their student loans. I highly recommend doing an internship, shadowing an attorney, seeing if what they do is what you would like to do, so that way you spend your 3 years in law school honing in on that skill. Me as a trial attorney, I knew I wanted to go into trial work, so I really took advantage of the different trial advocacy programs at my law school, and I really credit those programs into helping me develop my skill that I use on a day-to-day basis today. Had I gone to law school and taken more tax classes and more contract classes, they ultimately would have been a waste, because I'm ultimately not doing anything tax related, I'm not doing anything contracts related. So my advice to many individuals who are thinking about law school is your first bet may be to speak with attorneys who are in a potential profession within the legal field that you're interested in, and seeing what would be best for you if you would actually like that, rather than taking on the price tag that is law school, and then ultimately finding out that you may not really like that avenue or that course in the profession.
I actually agree with what you said, and I think it's important to speak with people that are in the profession and to shadow them. When I was active duty Army, I was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. So obviously, because of the profession that I was in, I didn't have any contacts with attorneys. But in the back of my mind, I knew that eventually I wanted to go to law school. So what I did was I became a CASA. I don't know if you guys are familiar with CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate, where you go and you get training, and then eventually you are helping children that are in the system where their parents, for whatever reason, are just not able to take care of them, and the children are in foster homes. And so that was my experience with the legal field, if you will. I would be involved with the parents, finding out what they were doing, what actions they were taking to try to, get their children back. And then I would work with the foster kids, and then I would work obviously with the agency that I was there to support, and then I would write up memorandums and then present them to the court. So that was my exposure to the legal profession while I was still active duty Army, and I was a non-attorney. And so going into court, it gave me an idea of, okay, so this is kind of what it's like to be an attorney, and then I had the opportunity to also observe how the courtroom was being run. So that would also be a suggestion, go into a courtroom, unless it's obviously a high-profile case or it concerns like child abuse or domestic violence. A lot of times those are closed forums, but anything else, like if you go to the Daily Center, they're open forums and you can just go in there, observe the trial. I know, for example, the YLS, they have like a shadow program where you can shadow an attorney to perhaps depositions or if they have hearings, and it's all different kinds of backgrounds to give you an idea of some of the things that they do, and then decide if that's something that you perhaps may be interested in.
So I agree with most of them they're saying. I'll be the one voice for a little bit of dissension. Law school is expensive. It is a big choice when you're making it. But so is going to grad school, going to med school. There's other professions that are just as expensive. And yes, the prospects in the legal profession are tough. I see them changing, see them moving forward. There's things going on in the system that I think it will become a bit easier. It's still not going to be as big and great as it was before we got out of law school and we just got a job. But it is important to go out there to try and figure out what you want to do. The legal profession, I label it in 3 categories. You have your litigators, those who love to go in court, like to be outgoing, like to pretend, act kind of thing in court at times, raise their voices when they want to think they need to raise their voices and make fools of themselves sometimes. There are those who don't want to ever see a courtroom, but they love sitting behind a desk doing contracts, working on big level transactions, just doing people's wills, doing other small things from big to little to the average person. Then you have those who don't practice law at all. They utilize their law degree to go work in big companies. And they're not doing anything near to practice the law, but because of their education, the trial skill, or the thinking skills that you get from being in law school, it puts you in a completely different category from those who have their MBAs or who've been in business classes or mathematicians or whatever that aren't necessarily the same type of skills you learn. So I think, think about it carefully. Look at what you're going to give, whether you want to be a litigator or a transactional lawyer, or whether you want to be a lawyer at all, and you just want to use this to be the stepping stone to be, a CEO of a company one day, or to work in the big departments. There are a lot of lawyers who do that, or go into government, become a politician. And most of us used to do that way. Most of the politicians were all lawyers. If you look around and you talk about them, they are lawyers. They're making laws, but they're now in political office and they don't practice law. Obama was a lawyer. He was a lawyer until he got into politics. Excuse me. So there's a lot of different opportunities. I think that it is important to go and talk to people, learn about the different experiences they're having. And unfortunately, you're going to have some lawyers who are going to say, I hate my job. I love my job. So you're going to have a mix. If you get a lawyer who says, don't go into law, it's worthless, it's not worth it. I say go talk to a few other people too and see what they think about their job. And I love my job, and frankly, I think in any profession, somebody there hates their job and doesn't like going to work every day, no matter what it is. Not every job is perfect for everybody. There are times where I do hate my job, it's boring, or I'm frustrated with another attorney, or I'm just frustrated with my client always coming to me as a therapist, and I'm not a therapist. There are going to be days you don't like it, but there are days that I really majority of the days, I love my job. I love what I do. I love the opportunities I get in the ABA, learning from the different attorneys from across the country and even from across the seas. You can go to the Bar Association events too and kind of meet with the people there, let them know you're interested in becoming going into the profession, kind of learn what they're doing. And you can go to undergrad and be in any major and go to law school, mathematician, criminal justice, psychology. So you have 3 different careers here. I don't do criminal law. He does criminal law, but he did math. I did criminal justice as an undergrad. And you pretty much are doing exactly what you're doing during your undergrad. I think just take their advice, but the cost, keep it in the back of your head there. Eventually, you're going to pay for it. It'll be done. One day, you're going to write that last check to the student loan company. It'll be free, maybe 50, but eventually we'll get there. I think that was the best advice I ever got from a mentor. When I said, what about the student loans? Just thinking about having that check every month that I have to pay. It's like a small house. It's a mortgage on a small house that I don't have. Don't worry. It's going to get paid off. One day it will be all paid off. But if this is what you want to do, go do it. Become a lawyer. And that's what I want to do.
I have a question. So when it comes, I'll be a junior in undergrad next year. I actually go to the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And I was just curious, when it comes to the law school application process, would you recommend applying to like law schools at the level that you think you'll be able to get into, or do you think you should shoot for like one of the higher levels and then one of the lower levels to fall back on, or what would be your recommendation on that when looking at law school to apply to?
Depends how much money you want to spend. Each one of them have an application fee.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah, definitely I would recommend you have to have your schools. You have to have those schools that you think you are good seated given your background. You know, you have the fallback schools that you're probably going to get into. And you want to go ahead and depending on who you are and where you want to be also. Each law school has a different vibe, different mix. You got to figure out whether or not you like that school. For example, I went to Chicago Penn is a huge trial advocacy school. I wanted to go into trial advocacy, so that's why it was high on my list with regards to the school I wanted to go to. Northwestern University, their law school values experience in the field. So oftentimes you want to take a year or 2 off prior to going to Northwestern University, because that's one of the things that they do look at. So definitely knowing the school, what the climate of the school is, and how that's going to mesh with you is probably your best bet.
You're going to take the LSAT. That's going to take a factor into it as well.
Yeah.
I took the LSAT twice because I took it during my junior year of college. By the smartest idea. But I come from a single family home, paid for a high school or college with loans and grants. So no family money coming in, and so when it came time to take the LSAT, was it nothing to do Kaplan. Thousands of dollars. I did not have thousands of dollars. There was some weekend program for $300, so I started with $300. Did that weekend program, never. So I didn't get a good score. And then I felt deflated, worked for 2 years, decided what the hell am I doing? I'm working in a foreclosure firm as a clerk. And said, all right, got up every Saturday morning, took a practice exam, all the way up until the test, and I jumped up 10 points, which is almost unheard of. And I applied into law school. I got into John Marshall. Applied to a few others, even New York, because there was one that did, what was in New York? Upstate New York one that did, they're big environmental. I think I might be interested in environmental law. Didn't get anything, which is probably a good idea. Great guy. John Marshall was very much a trial school as well. I teach you how to be a lawyer. I talked to a few people, even my partner went to John Marshall. So I actually met him before I went to law school. And when he told me about the school, I visited the school, and I was like, well, this is definitely where I want to go. I applied, I think, to Kent, maybe a few other places, but I got into John Marshall, and that's where I went. There's a lot of factors to think into when you're going to school. And you got to think about where you want to practice. If you're going to school in Wisconsin, they're going to teach you Wisconsin law. Now, you can come here, and you can take the bar, but there's a lot of networking, too. When you're networking in Wisconsin, that's great, but that's not going to teach you the job in Chicago. So that's a factor you need to think about, too. You may go to upstate New York. Well, the hell's in upstate New York? There's nothing out there. If you want to work, you want to work out there, yeah. I mean, there's lots of factors you have to think about. that's just where you got in.
Yeah.
You're looking at the law school.
And that's what I was gonna say, because U of I don't know if they still do it where they have all the law schools coming in and they, set up.
They do, yeah, I just went last year, yeah.
So I
Last
remember when
weekend.
I went to one of those and I had the same question of, how do I know where to apply? I remember specifically, it was, the representative from Boston College. She said, you have to figure out where do you wanna end up working, because you have to network, you have to know people. She said, it's not just about, oh, I'm gonna apply here, I'm gonna apply there.
Yeah.
And so for me, I thought I wanted to be in the East Coast. So I literally was applying to all these East Coast, law schools, but you're right, it gets expensive because they have all of this application, fees. So I, I went for the stars, on some of the big schools, and then I also had what I thought were the state schools, and then U of I was in the middle for me, and
Okay.
And
I went to U of I.
I don't know if it's been mentioned yet, and I don't know what's the background of the people who are going to be watching this program, but with regard to becoming an attorney, you're licensed in a specific state, so you don't just become an attorney, you can practice anywhere. I'm currently licensed in Illinois, I practice in Illinois. If I wanted to practice somewhere else, there are considerable amount of steps that I need to take in order to practice there. If you are thinking about ultimately going somewhere that's not in the state that you're currently going to that school, there's certain things that you want to go ahead and take into account. One is their national pool. You shouldn't go to a smaller school that does not have that national pool. They may not have recognition in Texas, in California, if you're in Illinois. There are some larger schools, for example, if you went to a school like Harvard, that's going to have a national pool. So you can go to a school like Harvard and then ultimately want to be an in-house law attorney, or excuse me, an in-house attorney for like a oil company in Texas kind of deal. That school will still allow you to do that. However, there might be a smaller law school in Texas that would also do just as good of a job getting you into that position if that's ultimately what you want to do. So it's definitely considering where you ultimately want to end up, because as of right now, I cannot practice in California, I cannot practice in New York. So having gone to a school in Illinois, that would have been would have set me back if that's ultimately what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
There's no exception for that, because that you a federal law. You work for the federal government, practice everything that's in federal courts, you can be anywhere. It doesn't matter. As long as you're licensed in any state, you can practice in the federal bar, no matter where it is. But I mean, that's
And
big
if you work for the
firms.
IRS.
Yeah, the IRS. I would work there. But if you want to work big firm work, if you want to go work, for the Attorney General's office, for the U.S. Attorney General office or something like that. Conflict, but that's all federal bar. A lot of that is big firm life. So that's another decision you have to think about too. It's not impossible to be in Michigan and go to Thomas Cooley in Michigan and get a job in Chicago or somewhere else. It's just going to be a little bit harder. You're going to have to network a lot more.
Yeah.
Network a lot more because you're at a disadvantage. You were not there to go in law school. I mean, the CBA was right next to me, so I could go next door and network with a bunch of attorneys at their meetings because they were right there. But if I was in Thomas Cooley or in Indiana, Valparaiso or whatever, they have to travel all the way out there to come to our events. You can do it. There are trains, but you don't get as much exposure when you're actually in the city where you want to be in practice.
Thank you.
I know that when you are involved in various associations and organizations for lawyers, what kind of opportunities do they offer for people in undergrad or in law school that's interested in learning more about the legal field before they either graduate or apply to law school? But you mentioned there's some things.
Well, I'm involved with the Young Lawyer section of the Chicago Bar Association, and this year, this past bar year, because we already ended the bar year, the YLS developed what's called the Shadow Program, and for specifically law school students that are thinking about what they want to do, they set up, the YLS set up this website where the attorneys go in there and they pretty much put their calendar of when they're going to be in court, when they're going to have certain depositions or hearings, so that the law students that are interested can then go onto this website, pull up the calendar and say, oh, this person has this hearing on this day and it concerns maybe patent or some sort of a contract dispute. And then they just link up with the attorney, and that's one way. The other way is that the YLS has networking events every single month. And that's an opportunity to just get together, introduce yourself. And at the beginning of the year, they have what's called committee night, where law students, not just attorneys, go and see all the committees that the YLS has. And the YLS, I believe, has some like 50 or 60 different committees where, you just go around and you talk to people, figure out, is this something that is a fit for me? You just get involved. And that's one of the ways that I became very involved with the YLS. I just started going to events. And I know a lot of times it can be intimidating if you don't know someone and you just show up to events. But I'm the kind of person that I just like throw myself out there anyway and it doesn't matter. And then I just start socializing, or I just go up to people and introduce myself and start networking, and then you exchange information. And then it's just a matter of, if you get someone's card, follow up with them. Because there's no sense in getting someone's card and then you're just putting it aside. You have to follow up with them. Like, oh, may I, meet you sometime for coffee, or I don't drink coffee, but people go to coffee and say, can we meet up for coffee? And I'm like, you can have coffee, I'll have tea. I'm a tea person. But that's another good way to like sit down and just quote unquote pick someone's brain. But those are the kind of events that the YLS has for people.
So the ABA is a national organization. It's a bit harder. The best thing, the ABA is headquartered here in Chicago. There are many, many sections of the ABA. That would take me an hour really to break down how the ABA is completely structured. But the ABA has a bunch of different sections that are dealing with different topics, from patent law to criminal, to prosecutors and all kinds of different things, solos and so forth. A lot of their things here in Chicago. They always love having, especially law students. I know you're just coming into college from what I heard over here in the conversation. Are there you two in law school, or?
No, I'm still undergrad right
Still
now.
undergrad. And it is a bit difficult when you're an undergrad. The good thing is you have about 6 or 7 attorneys sitting here. We always know what's going on. So you always get our card and find out when the next event is. We're more than happy to bring you as a guest so that we can go and talk to everybody. And I think one of the things that's important that you didn't mention is learning how to network. You don't learn that in college, and you don't learn that in law school. The way you're going to learn it is by really kicking yourself in the butt and going to these receptions, and not just hanging out with us because you've met us and know us, but going around and talking to other people and forcing yourself to learn to have those conversations more about than just the weather, to talking about other things and even asking in depth. Most lawyers, we love to talk. We talk a lot, and we still talk a lot more, even outside with our friends who are not lawyers. So you're always going to be able to get a lawyer who's going to open up and kind of tell you their story and ask the right questions. And it's good to have business cards. I always tell first-year law students to get a business card, any law student really, because it's easier to hand somebody a business card than to ask them for it. I found that in my experience, I always felt embarrassed asking them for a card, but as soon as I handed them one, if the attorney has a card, they're going to give you theirs, and you will have to follow up. And I point blankly tell law students, here's my card, you better follow up with me, because I don't have a busy schedule that I'm not going to remember to follow up with you. If you call me, you want to do lunch coffee, I will find the time to do it. You can ask me any questions. So you gotta make sure you do that, and in law school you'll get more notice about the different events going on out there. In undergrad, especially if the undergrad has a law school, they host a lot of events too. So find out from them, go to law school. I don't know if they'll put you on the email list, but maybe you can see a list of events. Just show up to the reception. Nobody's going to check your ID. They're not going to ask whether you're a law student or a lawyer. Most of the time you show up and there's free pizza and beer and wine most of the time.
Well, your son has the pre-law club.
They do.
Are you part of it?
I am, yeah, I am, which is awesome. We have attorneys come and speak to us too, so it's a good opportunity.
And I just wanted to piggyback off of what they were saying. With many public interest positions, working for the state, working for the county, working for the city, they usually have an internship program that internship program sometimes is only law students, but for some of the positions, it also includes college students as well. Those are great opportunities for you to be able to see what we do on a day-to-day basis, be able to sit in the courtroom, hear us argue cases, hear us go through preparation of witnesses, all of the things that go into the legal profession, which I would highly recommend. I would also piggyback off of what he said that you can always go into the law schools. I mean, they're pretty much open to the public for the most part, and just go directly to their career services and say, hey, listen, I'm a prospective student, I'm an interested student. I just want to know, like, what is available, what, can you go ahead and point me in the direction? And more often than not, they're more than willing to help out. That's definitely an avenue that you can do through any one of the schools. I would say pick the school that's closest to your home and just go to it and be able to go to their career services office and just really say, hey, listen, I'm interested in this. I really don't know about it. Is there a recent alum that you can get me in contact with? And they would definitely have their list of alumni who can definitely help you out.
Just go to the law school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's right there. Yeah. 2 blocks away.
It's so easy.
I have a question. Did you guys do anything to prepare before you started law school? Like, you got admitted, it's the summer, did you read anything, or is there something that you wish you had done to prepare for one?
All right, yes. I actually did a few things. While I was in college, I did a PLUS program through Chicago Kent, which I cannot remember what PLUS stands for. I think it's like a pre-legal undergraduate studies or something like that. Oh my gosh, she's gonna kill me because she's probably gonna watch this and call me. She's probably texting me right now, the dean of the program. But it was essentially a program where it was an exposure to the legal profession. We sat down, had different classes, essentially the same kind of classes that you would take your first year. She had a bunch of individuals come in and explain to us about the legal process, about being an attorney. I absolutely loved it. It's something that if you're looking at this right now and you are a college student, go ahead, go online, PLUS program. I think it's still through Chicago Kent, and that's one thing you can do as of right now. The second thing I did is also CLEO, which is Counsel on Legal Education and Opportunity. That is another phenomenal program. Essentially, the way it was designed was that after you finish undergrad, that summer before you actually go into your law school, you can go to this program, and this program is designed to give you a boot camp of your first year of law school. You'll go in there and you'll take the exact same classes you are going to be taking 3 months later. It was phenomenal because you go into law school already having outlines that you've written for the same exact cases that you're going to see. You're going to see contracts, you're going to see torts, you're going to see legal writing. And it was nice having gone into law school, having already taken my first year or my first semester classes over the summer, so that way you're kind of starting off ahead of the other individuals who are going into law school. So those are 2 great programs, the PLUS program as well as CLEO, that I would recommend. And what's great about CLEO is they offer scholarship. There's a lot of follow-up throughout the time that you're in law school. It's a great program, and I highly recommend it. Outside of that, there are other things that you can do. I think there was one paperback book, it's called like Law School Exams or something like that. And it's really important to sometimes read those kind of books that prepare you for law school, because law school exams are unlike your college exams in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's not so much knowing the material, but it's also knowing the professor. And sometimes knowing the professor is even more important than knowing the material. I remember there was chatter about the curve on a specific law school exam, and the difference between doing very well and doing very poorly was like the difference between a 90 and an 85. If you got an 85, you were on the failing end, whereas if you got a 90, you were on the BA range. And 85 is knowing a considerable amount of information, but because you were on a curve, 85 didn't cut it. So definitely knowing how this teacher is going, or how this professor is going to grade this exam, was something that really sets some students apart in law school, especially when you have a tight curve like that one.
Well, part of her question was, what is something that you wish you would have known?
Oh.
And everything that my colleague over here just discussed is something that I wish I would have known. And I think part of it had to do also because I was active duty Army. I mean, my mindset was not about thinking about law school. I was still having, a day-to-day job with daily missions. I was still thinking, okay, I have to do this for my bosses, that I really didn't have the time to think, okay, I need to start preparing for law school. Because literally it was, I got my paperwork releasing me from active duty, and then I think I got my letter saying you've been accepted to law school, and then it was, okay, now I gotta get my house ready to turn it over so that it can become rental property, and then I gotta have the military come in and pack up all my household goods, ship them to Illinois, and then I had to get on the road with my 2 dogs, drive from Colorado to Chicago to say hello to my mom, like for my mom and dad for like a day and a half, and then get back in the car and drive to Champaign-Urbana to go to school. I didn't even have an apartment when I first showed up. And I ended up, meeting like a friend of mine. Well, at the time, we were in the same class, and I'm like, I don't even have a place to stay. And so they were kind enough to let me stay with them, and I think I ended up finding an apartment like 3 days later. So obviously my story is completely different from, I suppose, people that have gone straight to law school from college or maybe a year or 2 years apart, because I did active duty 5.5 years, and then I went to law school, but I did well nonetheless, because I'm here. But, obviously for me it was a quick learning curve, no doubt. Coming from military, then I had to switch the way I thought to then, start hitting the books, something that I was not used to. I was used to reading different things, operational orders, fragmentary orders, not textbooks. So I had to learn right away, like, okay, just jump in the fire, if you will. And so I did it differently, but I wish I would have known about these other resources because they sound pretty awesome.
Yeah, I wish I would have done. I took 2 years off before going to law school, working pretty much probably close up to the day I started law school, and tried to enjoy my summer, because I knew it would be the last summer I would enjoy until I was done with law school and probably for the rest of my life. So I enjoy my summers now still. You never know. I think one thing I definitely wish I would have known ahead of time and somebody would tell me that everything you've learned up until the point you went to law school, or doesn't mean anything in law school, you will learn an entirely different mindset of how to read, and how to write, and how to think. And no matter whether you were a physicist major in undergrad, or psychologist, or even the other one, I'm a criminal justice major, it doesn't matter. You're going to learn something totally different. Everybody's starting off on the same footing. If you do some of these other prep courses, like a legal writing prep course, it will get you a head start. Or even reading and learning how to read cases and to case brief. Case brief is the craziest thing. I don't know how many books I found that were used, and everybody highlighted every letter, every sentence under different highlights. And I was like, you don't need to know all of this information. What was actually important about that case may have been 1 or 2 sentences in the facts, and another 3 or 4 what the judge talked about, and the conclusion, and that was it. That's all you needed out of there, but because you didn't know, you pretty much highlighted every sentence saying, this is all going to be important in the end, so I know. I'll do the green with this, and the yellow one this, and I never did any of that. That I thought was crazy. I bought the books, it was cheap, but I would use somebody else to make my own notes on that one. But if you have the opportunity to do even a writing or just even learning how to read and case brief, it'll definitely put you a step ahead and get you in the right foot when getting into law school.
Anyone have any other questions?
Hello. So you mentioned a few extracurriculars that you did, or I guess I would consider them extracurriculars, but is there anything that you felt was most useful during law school that helped prepare you to A, get a job, but then B, build the skills necessary to practice law?
Absolutely. I wanted to go into trial advocacy, trial work. I knew that, and I think they would agree with me in that you're going to be learning law for the rest of your life, regardless of what you learned at law school. You're always going to have different statutes you need to read. You're always going to have different cases that you need to review. If you go into the legal profession, not ultimately become some kind of managerial position within a company. So for me, it wasn't so significant learning the law while I was in law school. For me, it was more important learning the practice of law. It was very important for me to take trial advocacy, to learn how to do a direct examination, a cross-examination, opening statement, closing argument, evidence. What are the objections? What are the responses to the objections? What are the responses to the responses to the objections? Those are the things that I had to think about and had to learn while in law school, because I knew that I wanted to be in a trial courtroom my entire legal career. So for me, it was very important that while I was in law school, I was developing those skills, developing them by doing evidence and advanced evidence, by doing trial advocacy 2, litigation technology. Those were those classes were the classes that I took because I knew that once I graduated, it was going to be so transferable. I also did some business classes like agency law and other stuff like that, where at this point I have no purpose for it. I never saw myself doing a merger ever. So for me, I took it because it was necessary for the bar exam, and it's important to know certain things. And sometimes we choose to take classes because we would like to have a background for the bar exam, and that's a whole nother reason why you might take classes that you ultimately find yourself never using, just because you want to have that background in order to take the bar exam and be successful in it. But generally speaking, there are certain classes that you should be taking, depending on the career that you ultimately want to do.
I kind of envisioned, before knowing that I was going to get hired with the city of Chicago, I knew that I wanted to be in the courtroom doing some type of litigation work. And I also did a trial advocacy class where it was very beneficial because there you learn to think on your feet, you're honing your public speaking, working on your confidence. Because a lot of times when you're in the courtroom, it's how you say what you say to get your point across. Because you may know the law, but if you're not confident about how you're saying it, the people listening to you may not be convinced. But then that's also something that I just had learned from being in the military. They would say, even if it's the wrong decision, make a decision and stick to it. And don't let anyone know that it was the wrong decision. But yeah, for me, I learned a lot through trial advocacy, and that's one of the reasons why I also work with high school students in Law Explorers. They are interested in possibly becoming attorneys, though they're not sure, but we're hoping that what they learn, like you said, are transferable skills that they can apply to something else if they choose not to follow the legal career. But yeah, definitely trial ad was what I really enjoyed in law school because of you dissect what a trial is and you learn all the different parts. And now working with the city of Chicago, that's a big part of my job, taking cases to trial before a jury. We don't do bench trials. All the trials that I've done have been a 12-person jury. And it's always interesting to hear their feedback after the trial was over about what they thought.
I go ahead and I agree with them as well again on this one, but for my school, we had trial ad was actually a requirement for everybody. Even if you wanted to be a transactional lawyer, you had to take trial ad, and that kind of pissed off a lot of transactional people who didn't want to ever be in a courtroom. They had to take trial ad. And that was the good thing about John Marshall, because they were so focused on putting out practicing attorneys no matter what you do. They had these requirements. But I also was very focused on doing bar prep courses because I was not good at taking exams, and this was the most important exam of my entire life. So So I made sure I took bar prep courses. But then also figuring out whether or not where I wanted to be. I knew I was going to be a litigator. That was set in stone. And, so, and that was kind of crazy. I went to school from 8 until midnight. Because in between that, I was running course-seeking organizations. And I was working 2 different jobs, doing family law, which I learned I did not want to do that, doing personal injury law, which I learned I also did not want to do that, working in some other different types of NGOs, one at DePaul, I did an immigration case for another organization. So I got a lot of different types of experiences. I also knew I was a good student, but I wasn't a great student. I was not going to be the top of the class. The big firms were going to look at me. So I also thought about what can I put on my resume to build my resume for prospective jobs. So I figured a variety of different types of law. That will not only build my resume, but it helped me learn what I did not want to do. But it gave me the experience of doing discovery in family law, and doing discovery in personal injury, which are completely different. You usually raise your hands like you personal injury. Those doctors' notes.
Personal injury.
Personal injury.
Those doctors' notes are ridiculous. They have a book that's bigger than a dictionary for their abbreviations. But I very much looked at it tactically on what I was going to need to do. So I knew I was going to be a good student. I finished with above the average, but I wasn't the top of the class. And what other things I can put on there? And I left law school with a 3-page resume. Not that I sent out a 3-page resume, but I was able to tailor it. So when I looked at working for, public interest groups, Chicago Legal Clinic, I had public interest work on there. So I cut out most of the stuff that was not related to there, and I had that resume. And when I knew I was going to a regular firm, well, I had enough firm work that I could put that in there, maybe a few of the public interest. That took a lot of time. I was literally there from 8 in the morning to 12 o'clock at night on the last people leave. So between classes, studying, work, and bar organization stuff, I was busy.
I actually have something to add to that answer for like extracurriculars. Law schools, and I think I mentioned it, also offer clinics. You can get involved and get some actual exposure to client experience. Like I did a community law clinic. I am a family law attorney, and I got a lot of family law experience in the clinic. That's actually a guardian line of was a pretty good clinic by the courts represent children who actually have courtroom experience. Your last year of law school, you're allowed to, you can apply for a 711, which is a license to work under a practicing attorney pro bono. And a lot of law schools offer these various clinics, whether it be business law, health law, divorce law, and you can work. You can actually work and get some hands-on experience. If you know what you want to do by then, I think it's a really good idea to do a clinic. I know Lisa has moot court experience, which really helped her.
Yeah, I was going to add that I was a member of the Moot Court Honor Society at Chicago Kent, which was one of my most favorite experiences, not just in law school, but in life. I'm a little bit of a fanatic about it, so if anyone's interested, please ask me questions as many as you want. Basically what it is, it's appellate advocacy. So you write an appellate brief, so you get sort of a case that's already been decided, somebody appeals, and you write a big brief on it. So it's very interesting legal issues, very contentious legal issues, a lot of writing, and then you have an oral argument where you argue against somebody else, and then you have a rebuttal, and you do it before a panel of judges, and you get peppered with questions, forces you to think on your feet, and we get to do competitions with our school. I traveled to a couple different states doing it, national competitions. We did an intra-school competition, so I just kind of competed with my classmates. So that was just a fantastic opportunity. You learn how to work with somebody else as part of a team, which is great because once you're practicing lawyer, a lot of work you do is under a supervisor, especially when you're first starting, or you're working with another attorney, your co-counsel, your second chairing, especially when you first start out. So that experience is fantastic, and I think it's been said already. Just learning how to think on your feet, learning how to be confident. It's a transferable skill to no matter what kind of law you want to do. So that's something you're interested in, and it's definitely something to take advantage of. At least give it a try, check it out, see if it's for you, because it did a lot for me, and I loved it.
I feel like we're talking about a lot of litigation here, because for all litigators, but there are a lot of not outgoing people who do transactional work, and you don't have to think as much as your feet to a certain degree. So there is another side to it. You don't have to be afraid of the scary courtroom with the judge and the opposing counsel.
What do people do if they're interested in transactional law?
What do you mean by it?
What would you
Sure. If you are interested in transactional work, your best bet is finding those boutique law firms and really getting into a mentorship, or I guess program with them. Oftentimes with regard to real estate, you can take property law in law school, but the actual practice of property law, doing real estate transactions, you're gonna learn it by shadowing someone in that field. So with regard to contracts, that's another area where you're gonna learn contracts from shadowing someone in the field. So absolutely one of the main things that, or the key takeaways is that you can go ahead and observe other people doing their craft, doing it well, and ultimately decide, you know what, I'm kind of interested in that, maybe I should pursue that. I would highly recommend that before you go ahead and decide to go into law school and then say, well, maybe I'm interested in contracts, or maybe I'm interested in property transactions. There are many attorneys, especially here in Chicago, but in the greater Illinois, where you can do that kind of mentorship program. Sometimes it's going through families, sometimes it's going through the bar associations, sometimes it's just randomly showing up at a law school and asking them to connect you with someone on their alumni list. But regardless of how you network in order to meet those individuals, once you meet them, that's really going to be the time that you'll have to develop whether or not this is for you. I think something that's key between the three of us that are up here on your panel is that we all love our job. We all have 3 different careers, and we all really love our job. For me, it's something special when you're in a court talking to a victim of a crime and also talking on behalf of a victim of a crime. It's something that for us, it's what we do every day, and we love doing it, and that's why we do it every day. Or even though it may not pay as much as being in a private, the good that we provide to society is just something that, for me, it's why I do what I do. There's also special things about being government work that's very different from private. Oftentimes with government work, and we talked about the 3 different ways in which you can be an attorney. There's trial attorney, there's a transactional attorney, or you ultimately go work for a company and you don't do any legal work at all. But even within the legal profession, there's usually 2 components, and criminal and civil, but then there's also 2 components in the sense of the legal practice and the business practice. For many government attorneys, our entire practice is the legal practice. We're not worried about malpractice insurance. We're not worried about obtaining clients, retaining clients, or advertising the business aspect of law. And that's something that's beautiful when you do work for a government agency. Your entire day consists of what are my cases, what do I need to do in my cases, and it's just the legal practice of law. I think you can definitely speak a lot more to the business aspect of law, which is something for me I don't have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So that's another thing that you can kind of look into when you are looking into shadowing someone. What is their legal practice, as well as how do they go about their business practice?
Yeah. And I think we have 2 things. Going back to the transactional attorneys, solos, small firm, we do transactional work. I write wills, I write, I do a little bit of family law where we write agreements, premarital agreements. Don't do that too often. But I do real estate planning, I do real estate transactions. So it's very unique, and a lot of small firms don't do that. So our firm will try to do it as an all one-stop shop. When we do real estate transaction, it goes bad, we'll also litigate it. We have plenty of real estate attorneys that we work on a regular basis that refer us to litigations. They don't do litigation. Business side, it's a pain in the ass. I mean, forget even trying to get clients, collecting from clients. It can be a real big pain. It's part of being in the profession, though. If you're not in government, you're going to have a business side no matter what. No matter whether you're a big firm or small firm, whether you have a billable requirement, or what you bill is what you bring in. And for me being a small firm, what I bill is what I bring in. The more money I bring in, the more profitable the firm is, and the more it eventually will trickle down to me. But sometimes the business side is actually exciting. You get to go to network. It kind of forces you to network versus just staying inside the legal profession. So I go to events that are not illegal. I go to other events in different associations and different types of organizations because I need to network. I need to put myself out there. Not going and begging for clients, but getting people to trust me and build a referral network. You have to have a referral network. I can put my face on the side of a bus, on a billboard. No reason. That may be one person that calls me. You're going to waste a lot of money doing that. What's going to happen is from some other attorney who knows you, or some old friends who know you, or a client who worked with you, who got referred. Most of my business and book of business comes from referrals, from networking from people out there, and then people who know the type of law and practice that I do. So it's very important to network. If you get those skills, you're going to be able to transfer that outside of the legal profession, not just talking to lawyers and doing. I always say we do lawyer talk. Whenever lawyers get together, it gets kind of boring for non-lawyers. We do lawyer talk. We always talk about. We find cases funny, others don't. So us it's kind of exciting.
So true.
We get like, oh yeah, look at this case, but look at somebody else who's not a lawyer, and you're just like, I have no idea what's going on. So I have to adjust everybody. Oh, we have a non-lawyer. We can't talk about that the whole time. We switch topic here.
But that goes for any profession, though.
True.
Not just the lawyer profession. Military is the same too.
I'm sure those in Wall Street probably talk a lot about stocks and bonds and everything else. I would be bored of that. But it's part of what you do if you're not in government. But the other benefit that I have, I get to choose my cases. They have to take what comes on their desk. I don't have to take a case if I don't want that case. There's a lot of times where as the client, I don't want to have to deal with that client, and nor do I want to take their case. So I will refer them to somebody else, and I get that option. I like that perk. I like being able to choose what case I get to have. I don't have to take whatever's on my desk. Or if there's budget cuts, now we're down to 3 attorneys, and you used to just do contract work for that firm, and now you're going to have to do personal injury for that government agency. You've never done personal, or you're going to do patent work, you've never done patent work. I get to choose what cases I can do. There are downsides to it, but I like it.
I'm a transactional attorney, but I think I'm a really good friend of this, and I think what's really important for them too is that some of the extracurriculars that people who aren't in the area are, like, we've mentioned law review, but we didn't explain what it is. It's like law school puts out publications, and we have articles that read some cases, and we talk about cases, and a lot of people get really involved in law review, and there's all types of law review publications, whether it be family law, health law, anything really. So I think a lot of people go that route as their extracurricular during law school, but what's really important too is the summer associateships. You try to work in a big transactional firm, that's going to be really important for you to network and be able to get one of those summer associateships in your second year is really, really important. And again, the networking is what's going to get you there, because you're not even going to find out about these decisions unless you're networking.
Go to bar associations. Chicago Bar Association has several different committees. Real estate committees, business law committees, all kinds of state planning committees. Go there. You want to find transactional attorneys? They're going to be sitting at their table learning about new cases that are coming up. Some will be litigators in there, some aren't. I don't do estate planning or litigation. I will do the documents, but I don't do litigation. I farm that out to somebody else, just because I don't like that law either. At least the litigation aspect of it. But the bar associations. I stress it. I know I'm heavily involved in the American Bar Association, but I recommend if you're going to be a law student, go to law school, get involved in the Bar Association. I don't care whether it's national, local, or state. Or we have $50 million out here. We have the Hispanic Bar Association, the National Pacific Bar Association, the National Bar Association, which is for the African American Bar Association. There are so many different bar associations you can be involved in. They're all doing different activities. They're all places to network. Your main ones where you're going to need programs and learn about law are mostly going to be through the CBA, the ISBA, or the ABA. The other ones are good social events. They'll host programs and have educational programs too, but more often it's the other associations.
Any other questions? Okay.
No? Well, thank you so much to our panel. You guys are fantastic.
Thank you.